Hey, welcome everybody. We got a full house tonight. It would appear people are y'all are paying attention to this stuff. So
We have a legit full house tonight.
that's a good thing. You guys picked the right channel here, the right place to tune in, right? Those of you that have seen us speak before, we like to we consider ourselves a source of truth. So we're excited to prove that, right? Prove that out here because as you all are experiencing in real time, there's so much. Today's a great example, right, Peggy? Today's a great example. As of this morning, we were preparing to say um, we were preparing to say, I don't know who that is, Peg. Uh-oh. How are people getting
That's my bad. I hit a button when I was moving around. So
freaking me out, bro? Um, are you talking about those people that are on there? The
I
people that are
hit
on your,
one button and then I unhit it. So I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, I don't
um,
know.
okay. Um, don't hit that button again, Peggy, or else we could have a crowded screen here. Um, But look at as of this morning, we were prepared for this bill to get signed at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And what was it, Peggy? At like 1:30, they
It
say.
was supposed to,
Mhm.
yeah, the executive order was supposed to come out at 2 p.m. Eastern and then it wasn't.
So that's just a great kind of anecdote of like that's how things are happening. That's how fast things are happening and then not happening and whatever. So, anyways, our obligation to you all tonight is to bring some clarity with yes, what has happened, what looks like is going to happen, or what we think is going to happen. But more importantly, most importantly, what can you do? Like, what are you in control of? And we know we're talking primarily to parents, right? But parents that have uh, underclassmen in high school, seniors in high school, kids in college, maybe a mix of all those. We know we have school counselors that are showing up tonight, financial advisors, IEC, so kind of all of our stakeholders. So we're excited about that. We'll do. What do you think, Peggy? Should we start with a poll? Should we start with intros? What do you think?
Let's just put up they're all different. So I'm just gonna launch just so we can see the who are you poll. So let us know, like, are you a student, parent, school counselor? Here we go. You guys are rocking it.
Get the juices flowing here because we are going to ask for some class participation. Just and we're off to a good start. Let's do some just quick intros. We do have a couple other questions for you. Maybe you can put one of the. I think one of them is where y'all at. Do we have that one, Peggy, in the poll?
Yeah, I'll launch that one, but you can keep rolling.
Okay. So I'm Matt Carpenter. I'm one of the founders here at College Aid Pro. Class 2025 is a special one for me because this will be the 20th class that I will have shepherded through this process, which is just insane to say out loud. It's all I've ever done. My only career, I have attended some bar. Outside of tendon bar, this is all I know professionally here. And um, I share that just because I think that is a maybe my best credential to say that like I have seen just so much. And when I say so much, I mean every family dynamic, every you know uh, level of talent of student, and from those that are just happy to graduate from college to the valedictorians with the perfect test scores. I've worked with every college that you've heard of, and that's really important because these are all private businesses and they each run their businesses differently. Um, so we need to know how, the colleges that we're targeting or the colleges that we're at, how do they do business? So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. But again, I kind of understand I know how challenging of a process this is. So I take a ton of pride on trying to help families have successful outcomes. My colleagues here, we have Kevin Murphy, who's down in New Jersey, and Kevin Murphy is somebody that again has taken many, many, many trips around the sun. He's worked with thousands of families. Again, same thing, just on the front lines, guiding families through this process. He's a college planning nerd. No offense, Murph. I love you. But I don't know. That's not inaccurate, is it?
No, not at all. I love
Okay.
this. So
Yeah. So he's going to be Murph tonight for the most part is going to be in the background. He's going to be full time in the Q&A. We want you guys asking questions. It can be about anything. Put them in the Q&A. He's going to be manning that, and whichever one of between Peggy and I, whichever one of us is not talking, we're going to be in the Q&A. I'm going to challenge us. We'll get to over 200 questions tonight. That's what I'm putting on the big board, Murph, Peggy. So let's see what we can do here. Peggy, the fairy godmother of financial aid, otherwise known as the budget queen. Okay, originally Jersey girl, now makes her home just outside of Seattle. Peggy, why don't you say hi and we'll get it rolling.
Yeah, too. I'm going to put the last poll up, which is near and dear to my heart, being a Jersey girl. So let us know your favorite Springsteen song there.
Most
That's the
important.
most important thing of the evening, of course, for me. So I'm kidding, but to steal your phrase, probably my best credential is I have twins and I've been through this, right? They're out of college. I wrote those last checks a while ago. Remember the day. So I get it. I get this process. Some of you have kids in school already. Some of you are professionals and you probably haven't gone through it yet and you're about to, whatever. But it's a crazy process and I get it. But my background, I'm a financial planner by background, and then just started focusing exclusively on this through my own business. And then long story, knew the guys at CAP and beta tested our software and knew them for years and then ended up joining CAP. So that's my story. I've got the personal experience and then I've got, professional work in this for a long time. And somebody wrote something about Jersey Girl in the chat.
Hey, I'm in love with a Jersey girl, Peggy. And to that
And
point,
I just want to tell you, that was my wedding song, and there was a fiddle in it, and it rocked. It was the best. That
best
was that
rendition.
was my song with my hubby. Oh, somebody wrote mine too. Love it.
Yeah, that's
The
fun.
best. But
Yeah, if you want,
anyways,
I saw a lot of others in there. Don't be afraid to put your if it wasn't listed, go ahead and put that in the chat. But look it, we got a ton of. I mean, Peggy, if it was up to us, we'd just stop right now and talk Bruce all
I would
night.
just talk about the concert that I saw. Yeah, that was the best thing ever.
There
Yep.
you go. All right, but let's dig in here. And guys, we'll remind you of this a few times tonight because people jump on late, people forget. Put all your questions in the Q&A. Sometime again, when we ask for comments and things like that, the chat is awesome, just like you guys are doing, talking about the boss here. But for questions, please put them in the Q&A.
Yeah, and this is being recorded. So if you get distracted or somebody in your household couldn't make it, we got you covered. We will definitely be sending out a recording. So let me get all set here. So as Matt probably said, I don't always listen to his intro exactly what he's saying, but
Yeah.
we are College Aid Pro and he's one of the co-founders. And the key thing I want to draw your attention to is the last line here, this empowering families to shop smarter for college. And what we're doing tonight is just a perfect example of this. This is what gets all three of us out of bed. We've been doing forever. So we're super excited to be here, and all the stuff that's going on is it's just a little nutty. So we're happy to bring some calmness and source of truth to it. So there's the three of us, and we're going to skip through that. So let's start talking about everything, unless you've literally been asleep for the last few weeks, you're hearing all about this through whatever channels you listen to. So let's first talk about what's actually happened, because there's so much talked about what might happen, and it's important to understand what's actually happened. The Department of Ed, the Education Department, they are downsizing. The Doge and the Trump administration have come in, laid people off, offered people 25K to walk away, all that kind of stuff that we hear about. So there are less people in the department. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the government has no waste across the board and we shouldn't be cleaning up. The way they're doing it is a little indiscriminate, which could cause problems for students that are going to college now, students that might want to get into college. We have a lot of parents on here with 28, 27, 26, 25 class high school kids. So the downsizing is currently happening. The SAVE program that President Biden put into place has been blocked. As you've seen, I'm sure, a lot of things that this administration are putting out, it sounds really crazy, and then lawsuits get filed immediately and judges say, whoa, either we're not doing this or there's a temporary hold on it until we look further into it. The SAVE program has been blocked. I was on a webinar earlier today with a very learned guy, and he's like, quote, he said, it's all but dead because it was a Biden administration initiative and the Trump administration has no interest in it. So if you know anything about this program and you're involved in it, I would assume that it is dead going forward. That hasn't officially been announced, but that one's pretty safe assumption on that front. What else are we seeing? IDR, which is the income driven repayment. And just as the name kind of hints to, means you have loans it based on the income you're making. That's how your loan payments are going to be decided. Those applications, that website went offline. So there's like, it's been halted at this point, not officially said that it's gone, but it's basically not available right now. They've talked about a potential raise in borrowers' payments, and I'm going to talk about why, there's waste in the government is a big, DOGE is this efficiency department that's coming in, but there is also a definite reason why some of this is going on, and I'm going to hit that in a minute. Um, Also, the House passed last week this concurrent resolution 14, which let's just talk about what that is. And just remember, now it's got to go to the Senate. The Senate most likely is going to tweak it, but it's probably not going to die in the Senate. It just might get tweaked. So if we talk about this resolution, what's in there? They're talking about disbanding the Department of Education. And as Matt was just talking about earlier, this executive order from Trump was supposed to come out at 2 o'clock Eastern. It got leaked that he was going to do this. And then he decided not to. There's been a bit of chaos around what they did with the Veterans Affairs Department. Not the best press. So they didn't do it. And now he's talking about being more calculated with some of the stuff he's doing, which would be lovely. So we'll see. But when they talked about this, there's a big push with the new head of the department, Linda McMahon, about moving it to the state level, which is interesting to see how that works because the states aren't really ready for that, and there needs to be funding to the states to make that happen. They're not magically going to have the money to do this, but that's a talk track. And also, just like with USAID, hey, this is going to move to the Treasury Department. Different pieces of the Department of Ed are going to do the same thing. The Office of Civil Rights, they're saying might go to the Justice Department. Student loans might go to the Treasury Department. Congress doesn't want to lose student loans. It's a huge form of revenue for the government. They just might change how that's all being administered and who's in charge of it. There's a couple nice tax credits that I'm not going to get into exactly what they are. If you have kids in school, you might recognize one of these, the American Opportunity Tax Credit, Lifetime Learning Credit, basically saves you on your taxes. They're talking about eliminating those because that's money the government loses. In essence, it helps taxpayers, but it's money off the books for the government. So that's in there. Also, this IDR overhaul, the income driven repayment plans. And as I've already mentioned, SAVE and these other programs could be discontinued. They might streamline ADR so that there's two options. So if that's something that was on your radar, just realize it's in jeopardy, definitely in its current form, and we'll see what happens in the long run. Public service loan forgiveness. This is if you go into careers like being a policeman or policewoman, teacher, public service sort of jobs that you could have loan forgiveness down the road. The Republicans in general aren't super pro loan forgiveness in any form. And you notice that when Biden was trying to push stuff through when he was still president. So anything with loan forgiveness is potentially, in jeopardy. Again, that money isn't coming into the government if the loans are being forgiven. And then the plus loan. Matt's going to touch on loans in a little bit, but this is a parent loan that the federal government offers. This could be harder to qualify, could have increased payments, or it could be eliminated altogether. And for some families, this is a huge way that they can afford college. Might mean the college is not affordable, but that's a whole nother conversation that we're not going to have here. So realize that this has been passed. It's going over to the Senate, and we'll stay on top of what happens there. Another thing you've probably heard about is the National Institutes of Health, NIH. They've proposed significant funding cuts which got halted. As you can see here on March 5th, a federal judge blocked the implementation. But the reason why we're bringing this up is that the colleges have responded. The universities and colleges have already responded. You've probably read about this. There's hiring freezes and other budgetary constraints. Few schools that I've listed here, that's just to name a few, that have made some pretty meaningful changes to how they're doing things, even though the implementation was halted, because it's uncertain territory here, and they want to make sure that they're watching their budgets. If all of a sudden they're going to lose 200 million in funding, they want to make sure that they're getting ahead of it, which is actually responsible. So, as I hinted before, why are all these cuts coming up? The government basically needs to find two with a T $1 trillion in federal spending cuts because the Republicans would like to extend the tax cuts that Trump passed in his first presidency. They are supposed to sunset at the end of this year. That's extending $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. So they've got to find a lot of money to make that happen. We're not going to get into a political discussion here about are those tax cuts good and who they benefit. That's a whole nother conversation. This is just the fact. This is behind all this, that they need to find these funds so that they can actually pass that if they can get it through the Senate to do that. So Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about some of the possible implications of all this.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to I want to pause for a second here because you'll see, Peggy, there's a ton of great questions and comments and concerns is probably the biggest theme in there. Unfortunately, so I want to what our real hope is that you kind of leave here. I don't want to be naive, but I want you to feel hopeful and not like college is collapsing. And if can my kid not go to college? Is the rug going to get pulled out from underneath them if they're already at college next year? There's some things that are happening that are, I think, are going to negatively impact people. Some people already have been negatively impacted. So I don't want to say I think, I know. There's going to be some pain here, but on a grand scale, or when we kind of zoom out, it's going to be okay. And I don't say that lightly, right? Because a lot of this stuff you're seeing and a lot of the things we've already shared, like it kind of looks like a bad news reel, one after the other here. But as we continue to talk, you're going to find out we as consumers, as students, as parents, as school counselors, right? For those of us that are advising families in our community, we still have so much agency here, right? We can still dictate the terms, okay? And these colleges, and again, we're going to talk about this specifically, but Peggy, I didn't want to wait because I can tell a lot of people are feeling anxious, and I'm just trying to bring the temperature down a little bit. Like, we are still in complete control here, and we can still go find amazing colleges that are within our budget, right? And go have these beautiful outcomes. Okay. So, and could an already challenging process get a little bit harder for some of us? It could be, right? But let's also remember this was a broken system to begin with, where this isn't one of those if it ain't broke, don't fix it deals. And again, I'm with Peggy. I don't like a lot of what I'm seeing. I don't hate all of it, but I just want that to be the theme that your kids are going to go to college. We can make sure that they don't graduate with too much debt and you guys get to retire as parents someday. Okay. Do you have anything to add kind of on that note, Peggy? I mean, I know we're going to talk more about it. But...
Yeah, and I have a slide coming up. Try not to catastrophize everything because it's, that's where we're trying to break down what are possible implications, what's actually happened. Because it's an easy thing to do, but you'll really drive yourself mad, honestly, across the board with everything going on if you don't agree with certain things and you catastrophize it. As Matt said, I 100% agree. The Department of Ed had issues before the new administration came in, without a doubt. So I'm going to try and look at this as like, how can we move forward with what's going on? We do have the courts doing what the courts do, and there's some checks and balances here, and just take it a day at a time. What's happening? If the Department of Education changes and different departments are reporting elsewhere to other departments, that doesn't mean you're screwed. That doesn't mean it's all over. Just means they're changing the reorg of everything. And the revenue coming in from federal loans is a good thing for the federal government. So I don't see that completely going away. We're trying to be really careful that we don't want to say things are going to happen that haven't officially happened, but we're trying to give you our professional kind of gut on some of this. But a bunch of this presentation is going to be about what can you do, right? How can you be in the driver's seat? And that's the goal
That's
here,
a theme.
right?
That's the theme, right? Like again, it's not like it's this is out of our control. We're going to be these helpless victims.
That's
That's
never been the case in this process, and with this, it's still not the case. Yeah. So
so look, let me hit on a couple of these. Peggy mentioned this, but basically loan forgiveness programs are no more. Okay. And no matter where you kind of sit on whether loan forgiveness is good, bad, whatever, look at and I've said this since the Biden administration was getting really aggressive in terms of their loan forgiveness um, proposals. Okay, I would love for all the borrowers out there to get their loans forgiven. God bless, right? And I know too many people are too far over their head. However, that would do nothing to stop this out of control college system that we're in. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, and I feel confident with this, it would make it worse because that's going to encourage future borrowers to borrow more. That's going to tell colleges charge more, right? So although it would help people in the short term, it would hurt all of us, moving forward. Okay. So some interest payments on existing loans can increase. We already saw them increase. For 2 seconds, I just want to read an email. I'll go as fast as I can that I got from a student today. Okay. So I signed up for this, for a deferment IDR payment plan. Okay. An income driven repayment plan 2 months ago. It was for about $95. It was getting deferred until after I graduated from medical school. This was a student that just graduated from undergrad. Then all of a sudden, I got a statement that said my monthly payment of was now going to be $330, and it was due in 2 days from them. They have not been able to get FAFSA. They have not been able to get Mahalla, their loan servicer, on the phone. This is a microcosm of some of the frustrations that are happening, right? With a lot of folks that are currently in these repayment plans. We're kind of out of nowhere. We're getting these, those folks are getting the rug pulled out of them, right? Like that, great kid, right? The great kid and we're doing everything we can to help them, but there's no magic wand aside from we're going to call their loan servicer, Mahalla, 100 times, email them, writing in the handwritten applications are still in, so we're going to go through those measures. And then one hack it has where we've had some success historically is if you call the Department of Education, the FAFSA hotline, and you just hit zero, nonstop, you're more likely to get to someone live, fairly soon. So that's just inevitably frustrating. So something that's going on right now. Now, again, the PLUS loans, Peg, you mentioned it. This is one of the biggest things that we're keeping our eye on. So this is, like Peg said, the federal government program for parents that are borrowing. It's going to be harder to qualify for. It might go away altogether. So this means that the private sector is going to have the even bigger market share, for families and students that need to borrow. This could go one of two ways. And again, I'm a little bit worried about this. I'm optimistic by nature, but the optimistic viewpoint here is that, hey, this is America. This is capitalism. These lenders are all going to compete, and we're going to win as consumers. May the best rate and repayment terms win. That's what we all hope for. I'm a little bit nervous because there's only about half a dozen of these, big banks that service all these private student loans. Do they do a little handshake agreement, a little bit of old boys club, wink, wink? Let's just make the minimum rate whatever they say, amongst them, and we don't necessarily win um, as parents. But here's what I can tell you, okay? Many folks that have a lot of experience and a lot of expertise in this space, higher education, United States of America, will tell you the single biggest reason why college costs have gotten out of control is the plus loan, because you don't even need to be employed to qualify for it. You can have bad credit, and there's no limit on what you can borrow. So a parent that is unemployed and has bad credit can borrow $100,000 a year for college. Okay. You can see where we have $1.8 trillion in debt given that. But what it tells the colleges is, who cares if this family can't afford to go here? The federal government's going to write us a blank check. So we can charge whatever we want. And these consumers are going to borrow it. So there is a ton of signs. And here's some silver lining, guys. There's a ton of signs that are pointing to, especially if plus loans go away or get harder to qualify for, and the colleges don't get a blank check. Guess what? We could see college prices come down. It's not going to happen immediately, right? It's not going to happen immediately, but some of these things, and if some of these dominoes fall a certain way, mark my words, this could be the beginning of we could finally be reaching this top of the bubble. This is something that I can actually point to for it happening, because before I'd say the bubble's never going to burst. It's good for colleges, it's good for Wall Street, it's good for the government for college to be expensive, and we can't figure it out as consumers yet. So anyways, that could be some silver lining here. Federal direct student loans, subsidized loans, these could be, again, going away, or they could be reduced. We'll talk specifically at the end about exactly what these are. But any family that needs to borrow, we always recommend they start here with the federal direct student loans. The pros outweigh the cons of this program. It's usually universal advice to start your borrowing here. So we're really hoping that does not happen. It's just been one of the, potential things here. And kind of, God forbid, with the last one, I really, really hope this is a moot point here, but Pell Grants, this is the federal grant program for families that have the lowest amount of resources, right? Families that need the most help. This is free money that they get from the federal government. We really don't think it's going to be increasing, okay? We hope it doesn't decrease, but odds are, it's going to stay the same, maybe decrease a little, and also might get a little bit harder to qualify for, as in that threshold of who's eligible, gets kind of further out of reach. So God forbid, because I don't have a silver lining for that one going away, but, and again, as of now, it hasn't gone away, but we're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, and I don't anticipate it going away. It's an entitlement. It's an entitlement, so it can't just be wiped out. And this slide is not meant to cause anxiety. It's just meant to say, hey, these are possible things that can happen. Stay tuned with us. If any of this comes close to fruition, we're going to be all over it. We're going to tell you how to deal with it, right? But to me, it's just better to understand these different moving pieces. For the three of us, we want you to be informed. The subsidized federal loans, they haven't talked about that. It's just money out of the government's pocket, so it might end up being all unsubsidized. We don't know. We're just putting that out there. None of us are attorneys, but to me, because I've seen questions in the Q&A, if you're in an existing loan, you're in a contract with a loan servicer. I don't think they can't swoop in and change that. This would be stuff coming in. But again, I'm going to say I'm not an attorney, but to me it makes sense. You're not going to do that, right? Once you're in. But I know some people have written in, we're in this certain kind of program. If you have any questions about what might happen and your child is midstream, I know I'm old and it's old school, pick up the phone, call, right? Like,
Hey,
be persistent, try and get answers to those questions with the entities that you're dealing with.
Hey, let me break in here, because we're getting, so you saw some of these. So many of you are being impacted in real time right now, right? You saw that note that I wrote about that student right there. I've been going back and forth, because what I want to do with them, we want to use our megaphone to the extent that we can, right? We're certainly not a household name, at least not yet, but we're a somewhat of a known entity in this space. We want to have you guys on our podcast, have you on social, tell your stories, even if they're somewhat anonymous, and get those blasted out through all of our channels. Call out some specific colleges, call out some specific loan processing, companies that aren't getting back, and try to help you guys make some noise and rattle some cages, get in touch with your reps as much as we can. But we talk about it with these slides from a meta level. What makes it more powerful? If you write into support at collegeaidpro.com, here's what I have happening. How can you guys help? And then we'll talk to you and see, agree on what channel you're comfortable with, how much you're comfortable sharing, whatever, and see if we can't, again, leverage our network here to help you all. So please write in, right? Because we're trying to get people out there to try to get people to pay attention. So
Yeah, let us know what's happening. And I've already answered a couple of people. People have written, like, let your representatives in the government know. If you're happy, let them know. If you're not happy, let them know. And even if, one person said, well, they're in the Trump camp and I'm not, let them know. Those guys need to be reelected by you. If you're happy, let them know. If you're not happy. And if enough people share, that's going to matter to the people in Congress because they want to get reelected. So that's how democracy works, right? So we don't want to be silent in these situations. So, okay. All right. So let's move forward here. So the one thing that we know, and we're going to talk about this right now, is colleges are all discounting, and we don't see that stopping, right? So these discounts off sticker price that are so important for all of you to understand to find affordable colleges for your kids, that's still going to continue. And let me show you an example of that. This is University of Washington, obviously near me, Seattle. Gonzaga out in Eastern Washington, huge difference in sticker price, right? Very easy to look and say, hey, this is way too expensive, almost $77,000. This family has the ability to pay. It's called a student aid index of $30,000. But look what happened at the end of the day. University of Washington, no slam against them at all. The way this family rolled out, it's like, here's your federal direct student loans. You're not getting any money from our endowment. Gonzaga, completely different story. Sticker price is different. Their business plan, if you will, of how they discount is different. And the student basically is paying $40,000. So that's like $5,500 delta is much different than double plus, right? This is what happens. The discounting is happening, and that's what's so vital for you to understand. Okay. So what can you do about all of this? Because we've shared some stuff. Make your voice heard. If you're not happy or if you're happy, you've got to know what your student aid indexes are. I'm going to touch on that in a minute. And I know people are going to cringe here, but you need to understand your college budget. People don't like the word budget. I've worked with people for years as a planner, but it's vital for you to know your college budget, know your best loan strategy. Matt's going to talk about that in a few minutes. And then Matt got this from a football coach. His brother is a football coach, and he heard it through his brother's team. Control the controllables. This gets to like the don't catastrophize, right? My dad used to always say when he had a nice little Irish thing, and I can't repeat it because I'm bad at that, but it's basically know what you can control, know what you can't, and the wisdom to know the difference, right? So you guys probably all know that phrase and can recite it
yeah, from
beautifully.
AA. That's what it's from.
No, it's like there's some religious. I have a little plaque, but anyways, I don't think my dad was quoting it from AI, but who knows? But
I think
control the controllables, right? There's so much in life you can't control. Most things, honestly. Change is the most common thing in life, and you'll drive yourself crazy as a parent in this environment, or even professionals. It gets really taxing. So those are the things you can do. So let's touch on some of these so we can help you do that. So um, I talked about this discounting, very high level. There's three ways these sticker prices, these costs of attendance, tuition and fees, room and board, books, all that fun stuff gets discounted. There's need-based grants from the colleges, and somebody wrote in and was asking about institutional aid. The colleges can give those need-based grants. The states can give them, and the Pell Grant that Matt was talking about. Those are all forms of need-based grants if you have financial need. The middle bucket is merit-based scholarships. These are typically 5 figures a year from the colleges because they want to attract your child. They want to entice your child to come, and they want mom and dad to get psyched because there's huge discounts off massive sticker price. And then there's the self-help bucket. This could get tweaked. Somebody asked about work study and Q&A, and I said, we haven't heard anything about it. It's a federal need-based program. We don't know what's going to happen with work study, but work study and loans, which we're going to touch on later, that's the other way to discount this price, the sticker price. So I talked about student aid index. We're not going to get in the weeds. That tune in with us. We've got other webinars where we will go deep on that. But basically, it's what the colleges think you can afford to pay. And you'll have two different ones depending on the college and what financial aid forms they require. But it's vital that you have estimates of those SAIs. I have families every year that pop into my world and they have a senior and it's February and I say, well, what's your SAI or used to be EFC? And they're like, what is that? Like they don't even know what that is, which means they missed the boat on really grabbing a lot of money and making college much more affordable for their family. So you've got to understand what that is. We're going to help you do that. So Matt's going to talk about that in a few minutes. We're here to help you know what your SAIs are, because that's how the college figures out if you're going to get need-based aid. They take their sticker price, they subtract that, and that's your need. And a bunch of you on this webinar, I will bet my life, might have a negative number when it comes up to need. You might not have eligibility, but it doesn't mean you can't get discounts. You just might not be able to get that kind of discount. So all this stuff I'm talking about is super important for you to understand. So if you can't get need-based, that's that middle bucket I talked about, merit. So I'm going to turn it over to Matt to talk about that form of discounts that the colleges, many, many colleges do.
Awesome. Thank you. And then just a reminder, guys, put all your questions in the Q&A, not the chat. That's where Kevin and myself and Peggy are monitoring. We can't do both. So if you put a question in the chat, copy paste it, put it in the Q&A. We'll do our best to get to it. Please don't take it personal if we don't get to your question tonight. We will talk about how to follow up with us, how to interface with us, beyond tonight. So make sure you stick around to the end, actually, because I'm going to show you these, toolkits that our team has worked their butts off to put together for you guys. And then again, how you can talk to us to get your specific questions answered, right? Especially if we don't get to them tonight. So Peg said it, right? There's plenty of you on this call that are like, hey, look it. I'm not getting need-based financial aid, or I'm not getting that much, but I can't start cutting checks for 100 grand a year times 4 years times 3 kids, or whatever it might be, right? So I need to get discounts from scholarships. And a couple things that I want to talk about here. Number one, I'm going to show you exactly how we find out, or exactly how we think you should go see which schools are going to give you scholarships and how much. And guess what, guys? Remember, this is going to happen regardless of what happens with the Department of Education or doesn't happen. Doesn't matter who's the administration is. Colleges are going to discount, right? And they're going to continue to give scholarships, okay? Keep in mind, even if you're not eligible for financial aid, some colleges still need you to do your financial aid applications. We always use NYU as a great example. Not every college offers scholarships. We always talk about the Ivy League, right? Peggy will tell anybody that meets her within 5 minutes, I went to Cornell, right? She likes everybody to know.
This is absolutely untrue, but he likes to say that anyways.
I do like to say that. That is not true. But Ivy League schools, MIT, Amherst, Williams, there's about 100 colleges in the country. Scholarships don't exist. So we have to know, unless we're eligible for financial aid, right, at those schools, we're going to pay full sticker price because nobody's there on a scholarship. And this is another one, again, for those of you that it's not too late for the class 2025. I suppose it is if you're already in school, unless you're thinking about transferring. But if you're in a class 2026 or below, and again, it's not too late for 25, we have to apply to competing schools, right? These are, you heard me say it before, and I always say it, these are individual businesses. They each run their businesses differently. They will compete for their products. The products are the students, right? So if you want to go to Northeastern, you better apply to Boston University. If you want to go to UChicago, you better apply to Northwestern, right? I know I used, examples that were kind of geographically right next to each other. Doesn't necessarily have to be that, but you get the picture here. So these are all things that we can control, guys, right? So you can go to the next slide, Peggy. And again, I'm going to show you, I promise, where do we find out who gives us scholarships and how much? This is the other thing, right? This is the theme here. This is business. This is something that we own as consumers. We're not taking the first deal, right? We are very, very busy with the class of 2025, especially Mr. Murphy here. We have been for a while, since December, since we first got our early decision and early action acceptances and offers. We are never taking the first deal, right? That has to be your mindset. There's a method to the madness. Okay. This is not like you're not used car salesman. You can't even use the word negotiate, as a matter of fact. Okay. But we can use the word appeal, and we can follow similar tactics that we would do, try to get a bigger deal. For most of you, if this isn't the biggest investment in your life, sending your kids to college, it's on the very short list. So just like your other massive investments, buying a home, and again, you didn't just take the listed price, right? You leveraged other offers, right? Again, you got yourself a better deal. So these are some of the best practices there. But Peggy, you can go to the next slide, I think. And these are just a few examples, right? And this is just this year, class 2025, 50 grand more at Tufts. By the way, guys, these are all per year. Okay. Another, whatever, what ended up being 44,000 at BU. And again, but even the smaller ones, right? Like this all adds up. So even if we're getting another, $5,000 from Syracuse, that's still 20 grand tax free over 4 years, right? And these are just a few examples of, different types of colleges, big, small, public, private, throughout the country. This is just a small sample size from families that we've worked with this year, but we just want to hammer home, don't take that first deal. Advocate for yourself, right? This is the theme, right? This is the theme. These colleges are not going to go out of their way to have you pay the least amount possible to come to their school in most cases. Okay. That is up to us, right? So that is, again, just a theme that I want, especially you class of 2025s and below, to very much embody. And guess what? If you're in college, we do it all the time. It's not too late. Even if you don't have another school to leverage against where you are right now, we have tactics to how to approach admissions, how to approach the financial aid office, maybe both. Do you know that you got the best deal previously? Was there a mistake on your financial aid application? So anyways, even if you're still in school, there's still very much a chance to save yourself a couple bucks here. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I'm going to take you through what we've been kind of alluding to. And again, this is the platform that you all have access to. If you haven't set up your free account, you should, right? So this is, this is our home dashboard, right? And again, so you're going to know. Peggy says, what can you control? What can I control? I can know my SAI, okay? I can know what colleges are actually going to cost me before I apply. Who cares about the sticker price? Columbia's, $103,000 next year, right? For the class 2026. This is a class 2026 student. $103,000. That's what we're going to be. They're going to be 100 even next year for the class 2025, right? Who cares? This is a Massachusetts resident. I'm going to pay less to go to Columbia. Obviously, I got to get in. That's the hard part, than I am to go to my state flagship university, right? A lot of people think I'm really concerned about school. I'm only have my kid apply to state schools. That's a very dangerous strategy, and it usually doesn't mean it's going to be the most affordable schools, right? We see you want to go to UC Santa Barbara, right? My wife's alma mater. I would love to go to keg parties on the beach every day, but it's going to be $77,000 a year, right? The UCs don't give financial aid, okay, especially if you're out of state. So these are things that we can control, and we can go find in here. When I go to search for schools, I can see what any of them cost, but I can use any filters I want here, right? Okay, I want a small school, and I want to be, close to home, and I want to major in whatever we want to major in here. Bio, and then I can search and then just go sort who's going to give me the most in scholarships. Okay. And it's going to rank order right away. And okay, maybe Dickinson wasn't on the list. They're going to give me 43,000 no matter what. Okay. Or I can just go, if I am eligible for financial aid, just go sort based on that. Look at, here's some of these amazing schools that are very, very good with need-based financial aid. And again, they're not all MIT, right? So this is, again, what we can control. This is what we have at our disposal. And then we can see, does it fit within our budget? How much are we going to borrow? Now, this part is so critical this year, guys. You have to at least have a back of the napkin number of what your budget is. Use our platform. We have our 1 minute little tool to help you, find your budget. Because ultimately, it's not just what the school's going to cost over 4 years after discounts, right? And inflation. but what can you put towards it? And what is somebody going to borrow? And how do we feel about that outcome? Right? Why do we want to be cautious? Well, because here's what the first monthly payment is going to be, $2,300 when we graduate, right? And again, loans more important than they ever have been this year. For you, class of 2025 folks, when you get accepted into colleges, we want you to upload your award letters here. The first thing we're going to do is translate them. For those of you that have got accepted, you know how stinking confusing the actual offers are, right? What's free money? What's need-based? What's merit-based, right? What's a loan? That's why the technology puts them all into one universal financial aid award letter and translates them so you can understand that. But most importantly, we tell you, did you get a good deal? Are you like Boston College that traditionally under awards families $10,000 on average, right? We're going to flag that and say you should have got $10,000 more from Boston College. So these are all things that we can control, guys, right? And we have the resources, at our fingertips, at our disposal. Let's make sure that we're taking advantage of them, right? All things that we can control. What's my SAI? What's my budget? What are schools going to cost me, right? And then let's go build the list if we're an underclassman of amazing schools that fit within that. And again, if we're the class 2025 or we're in college, we're still going to fight our asses off, right, to get a better deal from these schools.
Yeah, it's just more, it's always been important to be in the driver's seat of this, but now it's just even more important if it could have been more, because there's just so much going on, and it'll help you sleep at night if you're more in the driver's seat. So, let us guide you on this. We know the journey you're on. All right.
So here's as in the coming weeks and months, most of our education, specifically the class 2025 and in college folks, is going to be loan focused. It is every year, but again, we're just going to see to it we level up our game this year with all these changes. But here's the thing: most people, when they choose a loan, you know how they do it? Throw darts, right? And let's hope we get lucky. Or who markets best to me, right? Sally Mae, emailed me, 3 times a week since my kid was a sophomore in high school. Let's go with Sally Mae, and they're a household name and blah blah blah. Or when I called the financial aid office at the University of Texas and said, hey, what loan should I take? They're only allowed to quote unquote recommend the Federal Plus loan. So that's what you hear from them. UC Davis has the Federal Plus loan as part of their financial aid award letters in their package, right? It was 10% last year, 9% interest rate, 4% origination fee, effectively 10%. And now all of a sudden the forgiveness programs are gone, blah, blah, blah. The point is that we need to understand all of our options. And I'm going to tell you the one. And again, that's coming. We don't have our favorites from this year yet. Lenders are still working out their rates. But if you want to go to the next,
Sure.
the next slide here. Oh, sorry, it'll be the slide after this. This is like I mentioned, this is the this is the federal direct student loan, which again, we're worried that it may be reduced. The subsidized version goes away. It's not going to happen this year. We're confident it's going to be there in some way, shape, or form. But this is where we start borrowing. It's under the student's name, most flexible repayment terms. They're not going to get a bill until 6 months after they graduate from college. So long as you complete the FAFSA, they're guaranteed to get it. They don't need established credit. They don't need a cosigner. We start here. Okay. But go to the next. Okay. Oh, sorry. The next one before that, Peggy. So this one, this is one that I think even Kevin came up with this internally. We talk about this a lot internally because we see it so often, right? That so many, most families have to borrow in the space, guys, and that's okay. Like if you're a family that you have to borrow, guess what? Welcome to the vast majority, and that's okay. We just have to do it the right way, and we want to limit the amount we borrow. But this is just an example of a family that had to borrow $150,000, right? Which is not a huge number over the course of 4 years, right? This is over the course of 4 years where guess
Well,
what?
it is a huge number, but
Sorry.
yes.
Well, but I'm saying, look at you just saw UMass Amherst for a state resident is $40,000 a year. That's 160. We get it here.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I hear you.
I'm jaded, Peggy. You know how it is. I'm jaded here, right? But the difference in a 2% borrowing at 7% versus 2% is $60,000 delta. I'm not talking about 60,000 more than you borrowed, because you're borrowing, again, if you borrowed at the 7%, the 150,000 becomes 339,000, but it's $60,000 more in real money, right? Than a 2% difference. So that's why, and we don't blame consumers, because right now you're just thinking about, I want my kid to get into school and, and things like this. But, you know, it's such an unsexy part of this process, but we have to be it's so important, right, of what option we choose. So okay, Peggy, so this group is there's a group called Juno. I'm going to put a link in the chat here. Okay, here's why I really like these guys is, so they have their quick history is these two Harvard MBA guys, okay, pretty smart guys. They had to borrow everything for their MBA. They looked at loan rates. They were like, oh my God, this is outrageous. This is crazy. So what they did is they got with a bunch of their classmates and they said, hey, they all knew how to borrow. And I think initially there was like a group of 20 of them. Maybe it was a little bit more than that. And they said, let's say we're all going to borrow. And I'm going to go, let's shop this to the lenders. And that's what they did. So they got this collecting a bargaining agreement, these negotiated terms, okay, with these lenders. And guess what? Now they are guaranteed to get the lowest rates if you're part of this collective bargaining agreement. And now they have it open to underclassmen as well. So even if you send the same application to Sally Mae, but you go through Juno, based on the collective bargaining power that they have, you'll get an even better rate. So it's pretty freaking amazing. Here's what you have to do, right? And I put the link in the chat. I'll put it in there again. Anybody that signs up, and guess what, guys? Even if you don't have to, just sign up. Anybody that signs up by April 30th gets into that collective bargaining pool. The bigger the pool, the more collecting bargaining power the class of 2025 has, and it'll go beyond and beyond and beyond, the lower the rates are, right? Like the lenders hate these guys, which is part of the reason why we kind of love them. Okay, so sign up for that. They don't pull your credit. They ask for like your name and email, and I think that's it. I think maybe the graduating class, but just by having bigger numbers in that pool is going to bring the rates down. So even give yourself an option, give yourself a crack at it. Do that tonight. Don't overthink that one, right? Go do your due diligence on them, whatever, but sign up for that. But you got to sign up by April 30th, because again, get that pool bigger. It's going to bring the rates down for all of you, for anybody that has to borrow, right? And again, it can be with any lender or whatever. We just want to use that like, again, kind of collective bargaining power. We want to scream this from the mountaintops. Now, there's some other, when we're not going to talk about only these guys when we get in the weeds. We're going to talk, we love this group called ISL. This is a nonprofit state program based out of Iowa, that no matter where you live or where you go to school, you can borrow through that program. We love them because they're very transparent, right? The plus loan, we've been bashing it a lot tonight, but for some families, at least today, we'll see if this changes, it might be your only option, because you don't have good credit, or maybe you get approved in the private sector, but you get 13%. Well, 10% is better than 13% or whatever. So for some people, that could still be the option. But for right now, what we're trying to do is get this group as big as possible, so then we can go borrow at the lowest rates collectively across the board come game time. So share this, whatever. Share that link that I put in the chat, right? For you school counselors, for you, financial advisors, IECs, share this with your communities, because, and again, do your due diligence on it. Don't take your word for it. Don't take my word for it, but it's pretty, they're the real deal. So, okay. So in summary, and then I want to show you guys, before you go, please don't go, because I want to show you my team worked their friggin' butts off with these, Department of Education toolkits. Everybody's going to get one tomorrow, too, along with the recording and the slide deck. But let's do some quick summary here, Peggy. Right? We said it before. We'll say it again. Control the controllables. We still have control. We don't. Another thing, coaching thing. We don't do palms up. We can't do palms up here. Oh God, it's so expensive. No, right? We're in control. We're making the decisions for ourselves. We have the tools to find out what schools are going to cost us, right? We have the tools to figure out our budget, even if it's freaking zero, guys. Okay. It's up to us to appeal for the best deal possible, right? These are all things that we can do to make sure that we have the successful outcome. And if we do have to borrow, right, at the end of the day, we're going to get educated, right? And we're just going to continue to, to pay attention, to stay engaged, right? Just like you're doing tonight. And Peggy, is that any more bullets there? Are we done for that? Right. Borrow strategically. And that's it, right? Stay engaged. We pride ourselves. I'm going to show you this. We pride ourselves about real time education and updates and however you consume things, right? Webinars, small social media bites, blogs. We have a
We have
team
a
that
podcast now.
podcast, baby. We get to swear on the podcast. You know what I mean? I was
The
tempted
best thing ever.
few times. We're gonna do it. We get to be a little fresh. You get to see Peggy and I behind the scenes a little bit, but we talk about all this stuff. So, and same thing, right? For you school counselors that are feeling some of this heat, let us know, right? We partner with over 5,000 high schools across the country. So this is the appeal kit for the class 2025. I'm just going to give you a quick tour here. And again, if you want Murph and Peg, you guys put the appropriate links, because so we have a toolkit for underclassmen parents, class 2025 parents, in college parents, ICs, financial advisors, and school counselors. You each have your own one of these. There's plenty of overlap, right? But
I'll pop it in, Murph. Okay.
Yeah.
okay, but this is this is what we want you to do. Again, you saw the theme tonight. Know what, or for the seniors. Sorry, this one is speaking specifically to class 2025. Upload your financial aid award so we can tell you if you got a good deal. Let's go, let's go appeal for more. Then let's get smart about paying for it. We're offering everybody the opportunity. Meet with us one-on-one. And actually, Peg, can you put the universal one in the chat here? So if you're a school counselor, Peg's going to put a link in there. You can meet with Anne Marie, our manager of school partnerships. If you're a financial advisor, you can meet with Peg or our CEO. If you're a parent or a student, right? Actually, parents got to be there. You can meet with Kevin Murphy and his team, right? And it's a 30-minute call, because guys, talk to us. Right, talk to us one-on-one, and we can tell you next best steps here. So take advantage of that. Sign up for that. And again, whether you're an underclassman, whether you're obviously for seniors, class 2025, what you're going to talk about is we're going to review your offers, right, and talk about next best steps and how we can help you. And obviously, if you're an underclassman, and please be proactive here. If you're an underclassman, I guarantee you, your class 2025 families. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, guys, in the chat, or tell me if I'm right. But maybe if you go back in time, you'd be like, most parents that I ever talked to be like, I wish I just engaged a little bit earlier, right? I wish I was learning some of this stuff now, maybe doing some things a little bit different. So learn from those that went before you. Get started now. Again, we're going to have this is some more information around, again, Juno specifically, because that's the only thing we can do now. The lenders next year haven't released their rates yet. The feds, the states, and the private sectors have not released their rates yet. When they do.
Yeah, and Juno is for private loans. Somebody wrote in that has nothing to do with the federal loans or the state loans. It's just getting it's like a Costco. It's getting that volume so that you might get better rates.
And
That's
sorry,
the concept.
And the other thing I didn't say that that is an awesome thing that they do. If you go find a better rate anywhere else, they'll match or beat it. So it's like we always say, do your homework and then bring it back to those guys and see if they'll match or beat it. They say they do. I have no reason not to believe them. This is, again, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and then 9 p.m. Pacific time. We do a curriculum, one for underclassmen, one for the class 2025, right? Or seniors, right? So again, stay updated with us. Here's our podcast. College, that's where me and Peggy get to swear. We talk about, we mostly just talk about our favorite college cake parties from back in the day. That's not true, but we will. I'm happy to.
Yeah, if that's what you want to hear. It comes from the John Belushi from Animal House. You know how he had the college sweatshirt, which we're going to have. They're on order, and somebody, that means me, has not received theirs yet. Somebody has received theirs, but somebody hasn't.
And they're spectacular. This Knowledge Vault, guys, is really cool technology. And again, it's our team that works their butts off. This updates in real time. right? This updates in real time. So you can see from this morning, we published something at 8:48, at 8:59 a.m., right? So this is like what's happening in real time. We're trying to be as current with current events as we possibly can be. And then obviously within your toolkits, everybody will have this recording along with the slide deck that we shared. So look at I mean, you guys know, Kevin and Peg know how hard our marketing team worked for this for the last couple of weeks to put this together and just like a million different iterations. And we were thinking we would just make one initially, but they were like, no, we should make one that's different for school counselors and all that. So again, they deserve a ton of credit. And I think have come up with a beautiful thing to for you guys who are navigating this. But to me, the other takeaway, hey, you guys, is like talk to us, right? You have a million questions, talk to us. It doesn't matter. Again, if you're an underclassman, freaking do it. If not, double secret probation. But the uh, see, Peggy, that was one of the names that I proposed for the podcast was double.
I know. I put the link again to sign up to chat with us. But, I will just say in closing, consume what you can consume to maintain your sense of well-being, right? Some people want to consume everything and some people want it in bits and pieces, but it's there for you. Like Matt just showed you, we've got everything for you. Consume it as it works for you and just follow along with us. When we know, which is honestly, I'm the director of education. So this has been my life since the new administration came on. It's adding hours to my day and I'm not complaining. It's exciting and great, but there's a lot to consume if you're not a professional in this space. So let us kind of serve it up to you, and then you eat what you can eat at a given time and you can always come back to it.
That's right. And I mean, and I, again, just echoing sentiments we've said more than once, but again, I don't think you can hear, like, if those of you that are feeling anxious, overwhelmed, scared, whatever, no shit. Right. It's like, and forget about all these changes. We say this every time. I've been saying it for as long as I've been doing this. It's your kids and it's your money. Like, no kidding, you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed. If you weren't, I'd be worried about you. Right. But let's just, again, we got this, right? Just again, kind of follow our lead. Trust your instincts. Be careful on social, right? Having said that, follow all of our socials. But we um, challenge us in the sense that I said we're a source of truth here. Put us to the test. Again, trust your instincts. And we're here to guide you. That's our deal. That is what we do. So thank you. Amazing participation. Murph, man, do you got any, they put you to work here well over 100 questions and answers, for that matter.
140. Don't count me short. 140 questions here.
140 answered, and again, over 200 total. Our link to the YouTube channel. Yeah, thank you. Let me grab that. Thank you for even asking that.
And thanks for all your kind comments in the chat.
Emoji,
One person wrote, I feel
For the
so
kind
much better now. So that means so much to me.
Yeah.
That's what we're going for, It's just really trying. This is just part of life. It's just another bump in the road, and we'll all get through it.
That's it, right? Just a little adversity, right? Or my another favorite football quote of mine is, "So what? Now what?" So this happened. What do we do about it? Right? So what now?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, we can respond as opposed to react. So it's all good. All right. Well,
Sorry,
everybody have a lovely evening. Murph, thanks for joining us and being a rock star in the Q&A.
Peggy, sorry, I have some of our fans are screaming for our podcast link. So let me just
some people want our sweatshirts too.
I was gonna say that. Well, they are pretty
sweatshirt, yeah, but that will be a good raffle. That's gonna be a good raffle item. Our podcast sweatshirts. So
yep. Okay, guys. Yeah, and honestly, appreciate the kind words. We're in it together here. We have a pretty amazing community, right? So it's not just us leading you from the front. There's a whole bunch of like-minded folks that are in your same boat, and we're rowing in the same direction here. So
yeah, we'll get through it together.
good night, y'all. Murph, Peggy, love you, mean it. Mwah.
All right. Have a great night, everybody.